order the New Shore Planning Board meeting for Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. For anybody who is here for number 2, that is being continued until next month. The capital improvement program is not ready for us to critique at this point. We will start with number 1, the public hearing. However, because we've got several members who have to leave early today, I will then jump down and do 4, 5, and 6, if that is okay with everybody, to make sure we get those things done before a couple members have to leave. So any questions or comments or problems? Nope. Okay, then we will start with number 1, which is a public hearing for proposed amendments to the New Shoreham Land Development and Subdivision Regulations. Proposed amendments to multiple sections of the New Shoreham Land Development and Subdivision Regulations to bring the regulations into compliance with state law changes effective January 1, 2024. The proposed amendments include sections that concern subdivision and land development improvement. They are section 903, 905, and 906. We have looked at this before, so do you have questions or comments, or do you want me to ask Peter to kind of run through it again for us?
You're going to open the public hearing. Did you do that? Sorry.
Nope, I did not do that. I will see if there were any questions. Okay, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, we are in public hearing. So officially, do you have questions or comments?
What section are we starting on?
We are starting on section 903, which would be part of number 1. Peter, are you on?
I am.
Okay, could you give us a quick synopsis for, not so much for the board, but for the audience that may be listening, and then we will see if there are any questions.
Yeah, this is very straightforward. Under the new laws for minor subdivisions and minor land development projects or administrative development plan review, the administrative officer, Jen Brady, could approve some types of development under state law that it would be required to be approved by the administrative officer, reviewed and approved. And so we're just changing the language in the subdivision regulations where it says planning board in a few instances to permitting authority, recognizing that in some instances it's the planning board making a vote, and in some instances it's the administrative officer. I'll note also that for every final plan stage, that's an administrative officer decision.
Great, thank you. I know we've looked at this before, but are there any questions from the board?
I have one.
Okay.
It's 905, right?
We're doing 903, 905, and 906.
Sorry.
So I can take any one of,
Never mind then.
this is all basically the same thing. So if you've got it, anybody on 903, let me start with that. Okay.
Just one quick question. So every time it says permitting authority, Peter, that's the administrative officer?
Or the planning board. It's just acknowledging that it could be
Whichever
different
is
based
most
on the
appropriate. Let me put
Okay,
that.
okay.
situation. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions on 905?
Yeah.
How about 904?
You want to ask 904 first?
We're doing 903, 905, and 906.
Oh, okay.
Okay, 904 really doesn't have a change to it apparently.
Okay, required findings. The purpose of these regulations is to establish procedural and substantive provisions for the subdivision and development of land that will blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at the comment, under the comment, the last sentence, which includes perhaps they could be administered with less scrutiny than before. And the question would be, why do we want less scrutiny?
To move the project along faster.
But isn't that at the risk of?
Well, if it's a complicated one, we would obviously want to go through all the
Okay.
steps. But one that's more pro forma type thing, then we can move it forward.
Okay.
We have done that in the past, and that we have combined several of the public hearings and put it all together in one place.
Okay.
Same thing.
As far as I know, the town cannot be any more open and have any more public hearings than it currently does under its regulations. So we could go in the opposite direction and have more administrative approvals. What's before you is keeping things at the planning board level as much as possible.
Okay. Anything else on 905?
Yeah, just on B, it's actually B. I wondered, Peter, is the initial period? Oh, sure.
Yes.
It's on, but maybe I'm not eating it, as they say. Yeah, just a question, Peter, thanks, on 905B. Just wondering, is that maintenance period of 1 year, is that standard? Is there any need to do it sooner? Just curious.
That's the maximum that's allowed
The
under the
max.
new state law.
Okay,
Thank you.
anything else? Okay, 906. Any questions on that? Okay,
Just one quick question on 906.
sure.
Again, just a little point of more curiosity, Peter, 906B, about the third sentence, this request shall contain a description. Is there any need for a photo as well in case any of those descriptions on the land and its meters change? Oh, I only think of that because sometimes when we look at the meters and the land measurements, it also says by a particular tree or stone wall, and sometimes those things can change. Is a photo helpful as well there to, in that description? Or is that really overkill and doesn't matter? Just curious more than anything, Peter.
So this is only when there's things like streetlights.
Street
excuse me, that
lights?
have been, right, that have been installed by a developer.
Oh,
And then
okay.
before the town accepts them, there's certain
Uh-huh.
requirements, and then they become the responsibility of the town into the future.
Okay.
So I'm I didn't look closely at the language writ large. This was just, changing where it said planning board to permitting authority, but it looks like that as part of so what happens is the planning board will approve a plan, and then after it's satisfactorily constructed, the developer petitions the council to accept the improvements. And
Mm-hmm.
this is saying when you petition the council, you have to have a description of all facilities to be accepted, including accurate descriptions with reference to the final plan
Mm-hmm.
and a warranty deed transferring ownership. I don't have any problem with a photo being included. I don't know if Karen has any experience, if there's any concern about a photo.
I tend to agree with Peter. I get it and it does make sense. And right, we always want more information, especially in this concept. But I don't think you need it here. Peter's right. This is the part where any sort of a facility that is constructed by a developer would then be turned over for the town to accept. At that time, those things in that sentence are what needs to be provided to adequately describe and for purposes of the transfer. I would fully expect that the town council and or one or more town offices, depending on what was built and what was being transferred, would probably go out to the site to take a look, to do an inspection, to make sure that, say, if it is streetlights, that they are installed appropriately. And the biggest point is that after the time that they're transferred, it then becomes the town's responsibility. So in this case,
Uh-huh.
photographs really wouldn't serve to preserve the status quo of somebody else's property.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else? Last chance before I close the public hearing. Okay, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I will make a motion to forward to the town council. What,
You don't have to forward this to the town council because it's a subdivision, a land development subdivision regulation.
So we-
So you're just making a motion
okay,
to
that's,
adopt.
I'll
Is
make
that-
a motion to adopt the
Yeah.
changes to multiple sections of the New Shoreham Land Development and Subdivision Regulations to bring the regulations into compliance with state law changes, which were January 1, 2024. And this applies to sections 903, 905, and 906. The findings, the proposed change are consistent with the comprehensive plan. 2, updating the town's governing body guaranteed from the planning board to permitting authority will allow for expedited approval. Number 3, an increased number of public works projects could provide a range of resources for Block Island residents to enjoy, which in turn have a positive effect on the general welfare of the town. And 4, because the town has so many needs, the planning board needs others to share in the burden of authority regarding subdivision guarantees. Do I have any other findings that you'd like to add to that? Then could I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, any further comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you. Okay, as I stated earlier, we're going to skip down to number 4. Which states zoning ordinance amendment. Review and act on amendments, recommendations to the town council, including a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan. Section 202 definitions, floor area and gross area. And section 406, residential structures meeting certain thresholds.
You are gonna go back to 3, maybe at the end.
Yes, I will, absolutely.
Sharon and Peter, we just have a couple of members that need to leave a little bit early, so we're marking moving.
Yeah, I did state that, but I'm not sure they were, where they got on. Okay, I am jumping around just because people have to leave.
Margie,
Peter, you
if I
wanna-
could, Margie, sorry, if I could just interrupt quickly.
Sure.
Do you mind just doing a quick motion to take something out of order for me?
Oh, you want me, okay. I make a motion to take several items out of order because board members are required to leave early today. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, Karen. And Peter, you want to give a quick synopsis of what this is about for our audience?
Yes, so we talked about this last month. I don't remember if 3 or 4 of you were there who are present today. We had previously approved the change of the definition of household, but wanted some more work done on whether or not the large house section of the zoning ordinance would be amended. So the graphic that is attached with this item that has 6 pictures of a house is an analysis of how changing the large house limits would affect house construction in New Shoreham.
Can we talk about that now and then move on? Or do you want to have them give an overview? Because I have an
I'm
issue
gonna-
with.
No, you're this one now, right?
Yes, I'm going to talk about this right now.
You got your
Yep. So it's number 4.
input.
Can I comment?
Yes, I was good. Let me ask for questions.
And I can go through each drawing if folks would like.
Okay, do you want to go through the drawings?
Sure, the left side of the page is what's existing, the right side is proposed. If you look at that top row of houses, the difference is heating living space was included in the total. The state legislature changed the definition of floor area ratio, and heated living space or finished basements are no longer included in living floor area. So that's not really an option. That's just a factual statement of current conditions. And then moving down to the second row, the middle of the page, the proposal is to therefore reduce maximum building volume by 10%. And so that is, again, first floor and above. And then also gross area. So building volume is area times height, and then area is, length and width. Gross, including unfinished spaces like garages that are above ground. So that would also be reduced 10%. So it would go from 5,000 to 4,500. And living floor area, which is just the actual living space and not garages in that same graphic, also 10% reduced from 4,000 to 3,600. I forget who exactly brought up a good point a few months back about keeping building footprint the same size. So that remains at 2,000 square feet.
Questions or comments?
Yeah.
Okay, Sosha?
So Peter, it was me who mentioned
Okay.
that. And I'm still looking at these diagrams, and I'm reminded of my elementary school geometry lessons. So if you picture a cube and you want to calculate the volume, you multiply the width times the length times the height. Now, the building footprint would be the product of the width times the length. The
Yes.
footprint. So if you want to decrease the volume of this structure, you would have to lower the height and thereby lower the height of the building. And we can't do that.
Well, if I think, you know, building footprint of 2,000 square feet, and I don't remember if these wall dimensions are allowed, but that's basically 50 by 40. And if you divide, you know, 45,000 divided by 2,000, that's a building that's 22.5 feet tall. So if you reduce that down to 4150, it's a building that's 20.5 feet tall.
See, we see like 1-story, 2-story, I mean, all different configurations and then.
And I know that,
So
but it's still,
Not,
the bottom line is you are automatically reducing the height if you are reducing the footprint.
The living area.
the living area, because I don't see the footprint on
No,
here.
no, the volume.
The gross area or the,
If the volume is the length times the width of the house, which is the footprint, and let's say the footprint is 2,000 square feet, because we're not changing that. But you're wanting to change the volume. Well, the only dimension you have left to go with is the height. So if you want to reduce the volume, you would have to lower that height.
but I mean, just reviewing all of the applications that come in for building permits or for zoning application, I haven't, I think maybe once I saw the volume exceed any of the other thresholds. And it was an error, because it would automatically exceed maybe the building footprint or the living floor area if the volume is over that limit. So
But I think
I think
even,
reducing them 10% kind of even.
but if I could interject, I think even with the livings area, you would have to change. Well, I'll wait till I say what I want to say.
I mean, you could probably leave the building volume the same because the other thresholds would be triggered first, I think.
You see, we're not changing the footprint, supposedly. We're not changing the height. So therefore, we're not changing the volume.
So leave the volume at 45.
But if the argument is that we want a smaller house, then we're not accomplishing that.
Well, the only thing that's changing is we didn't count the basements. The
We did
basements-
count the finished
I mean,
basements. We no longer
counted
can.
the finished basements.
Yeah.
Not the unfinished basements.
Which I think.
Unless we count, well, for gross area, then we were counting all of it, but.
Which I think we talked about last week is in that asterisk area to also note excluding basements. And it's not in this one. I think, did we discuss that? Because otherwise it's not known that it's excluded. Because isn't that the purpose of changing these numbers? Because we are now allowing for basements to not be included in living area. So therefore,
Right.
shouldn't that be under the asterisk of exclusion? Excluding ground level
No.
decks,
No,
porches, and
we
basements?
looked at that, and if you look at the actual section of the zoning ordinance, it doesn't make sense to list it there because it's
Okay,
excluding certain dimensions in the actual analysis of the size threshold. I can pull up the ordinance language if we want to talk about it. Yeah.
Under living floor area, would it make, I see what Gail is saying and I. Under living floor area, gross area and building volume, those things are impacted by not including the finished basements any longer, correct? Should that be marked so that people are clear on that? Because building footprint doesn't change.
It would, right, it wouldn't have changed. You could have someone theoretically who has an existing house that was capped and they could do an addition on it now that their finished basement is excluded.
Right. And that's why I've felt in favor of reducing by 10%, because I think that you are getting, if you have a finished basement, now it's no longer counted. You can then expand above ground. And to me, I guess I'm just always frankly going to be in favor of keeping things having less of an impact. So that's where I come from when I look at these things, but I know other people have different opinions and I'm curious to hear what those are.
The one way that I thought you could reduce a living area is by reducing the size of the second floor, turning it into something like a loft with a railing. It wouldn't change, it wouldn't affect the volume, but it would affect the living area.
Well, and that brings to my point of last meeting and this one. I don't understand why the change. I understand why you're presenting the change because we're now allowing basements, but without the roof height or the roof pitch changing, I don't know why we would change this, or maybe that automatically
doesn't.
changes the roof pitch without saying it.
I don't know if the massing would really change if you count basements or don't count basements.
I don't,
I
well,
guess I'm trying to
it
think it
means a
through
full
to see
two-story or a
if-
story and a half. I think if you're only allowing 1,600 square feet on your second story, you're changing, or not 1,600. Because you have 2,000 on your first floor and 1,600 on your second. You're changing your roof line ultimately. I think. I don't know. I would love to see examples as to what the difference is between a 4,000 square foot and a 3,600 square foot before we make a change. I think for builders, architects, and other
couldn't-
people in the industry, it's got to be awfully hard to know what this town is going to present next. We've made so many changes with the size of buildings. I don't know how, and maybe Jen, you can speak to this, how people function.
I have all of the definitions on a zoning review form and I give that out to pretty much everyone and so they don't have to hunt through the zoning ordinance or anything like that. Everything is on this form and I update it as you make changes.
If
Or the council does.
I just think it's incorrect that the illustrations misrepresent the numbers.
Well, the illustrations don't have to go into the ordinance, correct?
No, what I mean is you cannot go to a 4,500 square foot, let's say, you cannot go to a volume of 41,050 without lowering the building height.
So do you want to leave 45,000 as is?
No, well, first of all, I'm saying this is incorrect. And secondly, what I'm saying is if the original goal was to make houses smaller, we're not doing that.
What original goal? This is
just.
basements not being included is it's not like. there's
Yeah,
a
but it's,
choice.
but,
Is that a
but
choice of state?
no, no,
You're
no.
making the definite, like, the
No,
space
it's-
requirement not to include basements, and you're trying to translate that into making houses smaller.
No, it's somewhere in the paragraph for the rationale, it says what you just said, that these are the new rules, but that it will result in larger homes. And I don't
I
think
look
it
at the
does.
old rules and say, look, unfinished basements weren't included. So everybody built houses with unfinished basements and got the like the square footage they wanted in the first and second floor, and then finished the basement. I mean, I see the net result as it's gonna be, nothing's gonna change. Meaning, you have houses out there that have finished basements that were built with unfinished basements, got the volume, got the square footage,
Right,
and then they finished the basement.
right. But the exterior is
That's
not,
where, like, it's like, when it comes down to like 500 square feet, 700 square, I don't know.
I think
I don't see the net result being bigger homes.
the only way you can make a house smaller is by decreasing the footprint.
I mean, a 5,000 square foot house is big.
So
Yeah,
But you reduce it by 500.
But again,
the old ordinance penalized folks who had finished basements. They're no longer penalized. They can now do an addition. And if we make these changes, you can't do a 2-story 50 by 40 structure. You'd have to make the second floor smaller than the first floor.
I mean, frankly, if we were gonna see any big change here, I'd just as soon add language that if there's gonna be a large development on a property or they're gonna exceed the 2,000 square foot rule, they automatically fall into a 28-foot height restriction. Something like that, that will have impact. I'm not sure I understand this 3,600 versus 4,000 and what the impact will be in the volume. I'm stuck on that.
I found the rationale that you listed. It says project narrative for compliance with amendments, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, it says this change allows large house owners to expand their above ground dwellings. And I don't agree with that.
Existing, right? Not new.
Well, I think both could, so I do see how this change could allow homeowners to expand above ground or to build a bigger house above ground. I know the footprint isn't changing, but you could still have a bigger house because you no longer count your finished basement.
right, and some of the big, I mean, it could be a pretty large, square footage.
Yeah.
For your basement that is partially above ground, but they have walkout basement, which we see.
So how do you change if the footprint stays the same? you're
Yeah, the
allowed more
footprint
living
stays the
space, how do
same.
You change the architecture of the house to allow for more bigger, like
For more, for a larger.
like a 2-story house. I'm just trying to wrap my head around if you have a 40 by whatever, 40 by 50 foot house, right? And you're allowed how much living space?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Well, you know, this
So-
2,000 square feet, and you're allowed, your living space is what it has to be. Even if the volume goes up, you still have the same living space.
Well, your space is. That's what's gonna change.
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
is 400 square feet gonna do? I mean, why make the change if it's not gonna have any impact? That's what I'm wondering. What is the impact? 400 square feet is,
20 by 20.
Big guy.
it's a bedroom.
Peter, I have a question.
So
The garage.
putting a bedroom
Two
out of a
parking garage.
2-story house, I don't understand
Go ahead, Karen.
So Peter, it's my understanding that the intent of these changes is to kind of make a little stricter the threshold for the large house ordinance, meaning the square footages of footprint area, gross area, building volume, or not all square footages, but the numbers are all being reduced a bit, which would mean that there's more likelihood that houses are going to trip the requirement to have to go get a special use permit. You're basically reducing the threshold for a large house. Is that, I mean, in addition to the basement issue, but is that the effect?
I think folks tend to avoid hitting this threshold.
Yes.
I think they will continue to do so. So by and large, there will be smaller above ground houses. I think as a result of the state law change, you're going to get a lot of finished basements and proposals.
I agree. So to
And
that
and there'll
point,
be walkout basements.
so to that point, just so I'm understanding, when you're going from 2,000 to, what you're staying 2,000, 4,000 to 3,600 on living floor area, the intent of that is once that goes into the tech, we're looking at the drawings, once that goes into the text side, that would mean that what used to be a 4,000 square foot proposed house would trip the large house ordinance, and you gotta go get a special use permit. Now it's not 4,000, it's 3,600. It's a smaller proposed house is actually gonna trip the large house ordinance. That's a big part of what you're trying to accomplish. Is that, did I capture that
Yeah,
right?
and a big part of it also is the, you know, the 3,500 square foot or 3,700 square foot houses that are out there that have 300 square foot finished basements can't go and put an addition on without getting the special use permit.
So just to another point to that, Karen, the other part of this that I don't see in here is the maximums. Are those, would those also go down by 10%?
Just- Well, it is the maximum.
Maximums. What's
It is,
that?
it is the maximum. It's a threshold. So basically, your large house ordinance right now, today, says any house that has a total living area of more than a proposed house, I would say, it has a proposed total living area of more than 4,000 square feet, total gross area more than 5,000 square feet, total building volume in excess of 45,000 cubic feet. Anytime you hit any of those thresholds, that's kind of like your max. If you hit that or you go above it, now you got to go get a special use permit under
Right.
46. So it is a maximum.
But then we also have another, we have one that we're not allowed to approve over.
Well, that's your
Yeah.
3%, 4%.
You have the prohibited, so you're at,
yes,
for
yes.
floor area living, the prohibited is above 5,000 square feet. For gross area, there isn't a prohibited. Building volume is above 65,000.
But because the 3%, 4% still apply, that's really our end all, correct? That's the max.
So what,
The 3%, 4%
once
rule
someone
for
comes
lot
in,
coverage. For building
special-
for building footprint coverage.
Lot coverage.
once someone
Once you-
comes in
once
for,
you hit that max and it's prohibited, it's just prohibited. So really these changes, in my view, are really just centered on that. What's going to kick off the large house ordinance and require somebody to go get an extra layer of permit? They've got to get a special use permit if they're too big, but they're not prohibited. And what maybe just goes right to a building permit.
once the special use permit is required, you can regulate the size of the finished basement.
I understand your objective but I still say that mathematically, these diagrams are incorrect.
So to that point, here's my thinking on that. I think for purposes of illustration of what we're trying to accomplish here, I think the diagrams get you there. Peter, is there intent to put this in? Are we putting this in as an appendix, or is this just for discussion
No.
purposes?
No, this is just for discussion. We wouldn't put the existing stuff in an ordinance, a new ordinance.
Okay. So to Soja's point, Soja, I mean, you're gonna have to forgive me, right? Because this is like a lawyer trying to think spatially. Nah, never works out. You seem to be on this better than I am. But what comes to mind when I hear that question, which is really interesting, is there's certainly different ways to build a house, right? You could go in different directions. You could come out with, what happens if you have a cathedral ceiling in a finished room? What happens if above it it's an attic and it's not counted? I think there are so many different ways to construct a house that these images aren't necessarily wrong. They're just the simplest form to explain the concept. And you're absolutely right. Height is very important and would have to be played with. But since we can't possibly illustrate every possible scenario under which one of these dimensions might be tripped, I'm confident that your focus is really on how much do you want to lower the threshold, lower the maximum, that's going to trip the large house ordinance. You're right. I think height would have to be played with, but in order for us to come up with a depiction of every single way that could happen, it's not really possible. Who knows what people are going to come up with?
But my understanding is that we're not allowed to play with height because there's a standard. Buildings have the right to be a certain height.
They could be a
There's
certain,
a maximum
Lower
height.
if they
They
want.
can't go above.
you can't go above it.
They can't go, right now, you can't go above 32 feet.
Yeah.
So,
So you
Right.
can come in
But
under
then-
that.
8 or 30.
and that was reduced from, it used to be 35 feet. So.
You could also seek a variance on that, right? So if say you wanted to build a house and you wanted to go above that height, you can come in and ask for, here's my building plan. I want to build this tower. I'm going to get a variance for it. Okay, great. But if your volume exceeds whatever numbers in the ordinance, you're also going to need a special use permit.
But
And I've seen two, maybe one or two height variances granted in 30 years that I've been here. So,
They're very difficult to meet the standard, yeah.
right,
it-
but you could apply. Yes.
100%. It's just one of those scenarios that could play out. There's so many.
so we are allowed, what, 32 feet height?
32 feet. I
So-
really
so-
think the building volume
Volume's gonna.
is not an issue. It's because of the other,
You don't have.
it could be like building footprint, floor area, gross area will be triggered first.
You cannot build a 32-foot tall, 2,000 square foot footprint building presently. You'd be above the building volume.
Correct. So.
You'd be
you
at
would-
64,000.
The height's dictated by the other.
We need an architect on our board.
But the floor, I mean, that you just have to really, I would probably look at the floor area, the living and the gross area and decide if you want to change those numbers. If you,
Do we want to postpone this until next month?
No.
depends how many more months you want to talk about it.
I mean, the
So-
only thing I will say is I do actually think that if we're going to reduce the maximum that then triggers, especially the maximum by right, I think the prohibited should also come down to reflect that. That was what I was trying to say earlier, that I don't think I
That
said.
makes sense.
Yes.
That makes sense.
So if we're
That
going to
makes
make this change, to me, I think that it should be reflected in the maximum, because I don't know that I'm totally opposed to the by right. Staying the way it is, thinking about this more, but the prohibited level, I think, should come down to reflect the fact that people now can have a finished basement, not count toward these different thresholds.
Makes sense.
If that, okay.
And it's not prohibiting anyone from, I mean, even if you reduce it, applicants would have the option to go for the special use permit. It's
Right.
Going for the review and then you see it, conservation
Mhm.
reviews it for advisories, the zoning board holds the hearing. But the only one that's really prohibited is the 5,000 square feet for living. I mean, if you're not going to change building volume, then you would want, if you're gonna reduce floor area living by 10%, have a discussion on whether or not you want to reduce prohibited 5,000 by 10%. To keep it consistent or leave it
Mhm.
as is.
That would be
Okay.
my preference, but
My last comment is going to be that I don't think that all of this is worth our effort, that it won't make a huge difference in the appearance of the building to begin with.
So you don't think that changing the numbers is necessary?
Right, I think the effort is, there's not enough gain made, but there's too much effort for too little gain.
Well, what are you trying to gain?
The gain is to try and reduce the house size, and I don't
I
think
wasn't
that.
at the last meeting. I don't look at this as like an effort to reduce house size.
Then why are we making the change? Yeah,
Well, because of the basement.
But who cares? I mean,
The
Right.
volume's gonna be
Nobody
dictated,
sees the
volume's
basement.
gonna dictate your height.
I think that the beauty of the basement language changing is that hopefully all be part of the building permitting process and basements will be safer for occupancy.
And on the
I mean,
record.
because right now they're not, and maybe that was the state's intent when deleting the basement for living square footage. Or maybe I'm looking at it the opposite way. I don't know. But I think a lot of people are hiding the basement finishes because we were counting it in. Now they don't have to hide it, so maybe it'll all be part of the building process. Hopefully with proper window egress and doorways or proper egress period. But that's just hopeful thinking, but I find this, I think we'd have far greater impact if we're gonna make any changes to change building height, because so far of the two projects that we approved, with one exceeding the 2,000 square foot, they agreed to a 27.5 height restriction, and then the other several 2,000 square foot buildings agreed to 28 feet, if I remember correctly. We were just fortunate that they agreed, they didn't have to.
Right.
But maybe we make that a regulation if you're going to have large.
We do have something in there in the
Do we?
ordinance, yes, that talks about the height and especially use
For
permit.
larger homes.
Yeah, I can look it up.
Okay,
But one
good.
thing I just wanted to mention, I don't know if this would ever happen, but if because of this change, an ADU could go in someone's basement and they wouldn't be penalized by putting the ADU in, and still, they would still have the full living space that they.
Mhm.
would-
With or without the change.
No,
No,
It-
with the change.
with the state law change.
Yes, I mean.
And
without
the
3,600 versus-
reducing the numbers,
Mhm, right.
could change that, but I'm just throwing that out there.
Mm.
I don't
Yeah, that's a
have an
good point.
opinion.
But
either
that's
way.
irrelevant to the 4,036, correct?
If you reduce it to 36, I don't know if that would be,
No, it would still apply there.
Right.
Just be smaller.
it would just be smaller, correct?
Well, the second story would be smaller.
And you just increased maybe a year and a half ago. I don't know, it could have been 2 years, but I think you increased floor area living from, I think we were at 3,500 at one point.
Yes.
Right? And you just increased it to
did
4,000
increase
and so that's. something.
Did we increase it or was that the contemplated change? I thought we just didn't change. But it was
Couple of them
contemplated to
did
go to
change.
35, okay. Can't remember.
But I cannot remember which one.
I say leave it alone.
Well, let me poll.
Can we
Let
look
me
at
poll
this
the
again
group.
some more next month?
As I said, we can put this away and have it come back next month. We can say, no, we don't want to make any changes at all, or we can go ahead and approve the changes as proposed.
Or vote.
And I was
So
gonna
you-
start-
Well, I
Mm.
think if we're going to postpone, I would like to see some buildings that are, what's the difference between a 3,600 square foot living area and a 4,000 square foot living area? Because otherwise, why postpone? Let's see what the impact really is, if there
So-
isn't.
Yeah.
You already
I
sent the
understand that, but is
definition,
it really, is it?
you already
really-
sent the definition change to the council, and my suggestion would be that we talk about this ordinance
We did.
reduction with them at that February meeting.
Peter, we did not send the
We didn't
definition
send it, but they did vote on it. This board voted for the definitions.
to forward the definitions for gross area and living.
Yep,
I thought it was only household and
Yeah,
bedroom.
that's what I thought. I thought we only did the first.
floor area. We sent floor area. We didn't send these reductions. We split it back in October.
I don't remember that.
Okay, I can look, but I know the council doesn't have it.
No, yeah, we haven't sent it to them. I'm just saying
Because
the
it was,
planning board's not gonna, like, I don't want to spend a huge effort in analyzing something that the council's never gonna have an interest in adopting.
Mhm.
Right.
I don't think the council's gonna grasp it, like,
I was gonna say, if we're having this much trouble with it, the
I mean,
council's gonna have a lot.
Right.
You're.
Right.
So maybe what we want to do is just leave it as is for time and see if it becomes a problem. If
Yeah,
so,
let's
then we
do
can
that.
always go back and address it again.
I like that.
Nothing
Yeah, I'm
is
saying the
written,
council's gonna
so it
be,
can't
be
changed.
looking at it for the floor, definition of floor area. And there'll be is an opportunity for some conversation about whether to reduce the large house threshold.
Well, I think in the transmittal, we'll make sure the council knows that you have talked about
Right.
changing it, not changing it, for a couple of months
Yep,
and
yep.
decided to not or change it, whatever you decide.
Or looking for feedback from them.
I mean, we can, well, then it'll come back to the board. So
Yeah.
maybe just, we should vote.
Yeah.
You should vote, and then, if there are parts of the ordinance that you want to look at in the future, I know we just have a long list of amendments that are,
Yes.
I like
State
Marty's
mandated.
motion.
Okay, I'll officially make a motion that that we would report that we have indeed studied this and decided to leave it as is at the present time.
Can I have a question for?
Yeah.
Are you in the middle of?
I would need a second, then we'll open up for
Could
questions.
we clarify, so are you?
I'm making
Are
a
you
motion that after studying the recommended changes, we are deciding not to go forward with it at this time.
So you're going to amend floor area, the definitions of floor area and gross area that you are going forward with, but you're not going to amend section 406
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
because the state mandated is the
The state mandated
Right.
is acceptable to us at this time.
Right.
Okay, so do I have a second?
Oh, yes.
Okay, Socia seconds. Okay, now Mary, your question.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. I'm not quite sure I know what I'm saying either.
You're doing great, Fran. I don't know what you're saying. So I guess it's a question for you, Margaret, and for Jen, and of course, everyone else in the room as well. So your proposal is to not move toward the new proposed floor area ratio? Or as Jen said, we're not changing the living floor area, the gross area, or the building
Just the
volume?
graphic. There's no proposed, the bottom two graphics.
I
But
thought
not
Margie
proposed.
was saying to not change anything in 406,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which would
but I-
be reducing any of those numbers. Is that
Yes.
correct?
That was-
that's what, that's my question.
Yeah, okay, right? So we're leaving,
Yes.
We're leaving it as is.
okay.
With the
We're not
understanding that we
changing,
can come back and revisit it
okay,
at a future date if it becomes necessary. Should there be a problem, it's necessary.
Right. Other than
But how-
number C1, because we have to take unfinished basement out.
Oh, you're right, correct. Yes, that's a good catch.
Okay. All right, you got that? Yeah. Okay, I have a second. Are there any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'm so relieved.
Claire is opposed.
I'm opposed.
Socia, did you
carried.
second?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
As
so
I-
sorry. I've got to.
No, go.
I was.
Okay.
Oh, down.
I was
I'm
too.
sorry, so you were, Mary, you were
Opposed.
opposed, and Claire, okay.
Okay,
So sorry.
Two people.
That's okay, drive safely.
With two people opposed?
I know, it was one person opposed or two people?
Mary and Claire were
Mary and
opposed
Claire.
to that motion, and
So it
Chris,
passes.
Gail, Socia, and Margie were in favor.
Yeah.
In favor of the motion.
And I do want to make sure it says that we can come back and revisit it at a future time. If
Okay.
just so that we have that to fall back on if we need it. Right now, I don't know whether this is going to be a problem or not. I don't think so, but I'm not sure. Okay, we're on to number 5. Zoning ordinance amendment, review and act on amendments regarding development plan review. Recommendation to the town council, including in a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan. It's sections 202, 319, 320, 321, 322, 403, 404, 405, 406, 407, 409, 411, 415, 420, 422, 423, 426, 502, 505, 506, 508, 513, 517, 702, 703, and 704. Okay. Peter, would you
So
again?
yeah, one small change from last month. We started working on the 2025 required changes, and I noticed that pre-application meetings are now optional for the applicant. So the language in section 702F on page 9 is updated to reflect that.
Okay. Questions?
Excuse me. Um. This is not the conformance section, correct?
No.
Okay,
Nope.
Nope, that's the next one.
okay.
This is development plan
This is all
review.
development plan
Mhm.
review, the one with all the,
You used to see it a lot
Hmm.
because you would see a special use permit and a development plan
Mhm.
review application, and that's been changed due to state law changes, and
Mhm.
now you see special use permits as advisories. So there's sort of, really those special zones are the ones that would be affected.
I couldn't
Like
find,
the
I couldn't
public
find-
education
yeah.
zone and.
Right, I couldn't find anything that is debatable, it just is what it is.
Mhm.
any other questions? If not, I'll make a motion. No. Okay, I make a motion to send to the town council the updated amendments regarding development plan review. Because common understanding is consistently changing, updating and clarifying regulations is necessary for compliance. This proposed amendment will allow for increased understanding by applicants, users, and town officials. The amendments to the ordinance include Appendix E zoning, and I will not go through and read all of them again, but you have them listed for you on the, under the finding of facts on page 2. So, and for findings of fact, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. 2, increase clarity surrounding the development plan review and other land development projects will allow for more efficient growth to occur within Block Island. 3, increase clarity through the zoning amendments will promote efficient approval during the development process by avoiding previous uncertainties. Anything else you want to add to the findings? Then do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, questions or comments?
Just one comment, Margie.
Sure.
On page 7, or Peter too, it just came up in reading on page 7, 502. That's where we are in that whole run on 5. I was just reading this section, 502 number, it's D number, hold on, let me find it, number 5. It just made me think, and this may not be the time for it or the place for the language, but lots that utilize water access, such as boat ramps, shall provide sufficient access, circulation, parking for such vehicles with boat trailers. And it just made me think of, and again, this might not be the right place for it, but what kind of language do we have that talks about adaptations in these critical areas in terms of how they will be affected by sea level rise? Is that just not something?
That's the question for me.
Yeah, like, sorry, it is, Peter, I guess.
Yes,
Like, is it just not in this language yet, Peter, because we're not there yet?
I mean, so sea level rise is pretty slow. I think we're
Sorry.
at 8 inches in the last 90 years or something. So I don't know New Shore well enough to know where the problem spots are, and where this might start being an issue. I imagine there's things like the ferry ramps max out and how high they can go.
Mhm.
But in terms of like the actual dock that, the pier there flooding. I think we have on a daily basis, we've got, I think, a few more decades. So, responsible property owners at some point are going to want to come in and do things. And I think we do want to start thinking about, maybe putting in some sort of timeline, like they have to plan for 50 years of sea level rise with their infrastructure. Be it, I don't think we're going to be able to increase base flood elevation all by ourselves, but certainly for the uses that are allowed in the floodplain, we could be thinking about sea level rise, designing for sea level rise and increased flooding.
We do have this section on the flood
Yeah.
Yeah.
ordinance, so
Mhm.
which reduces height and
Location
Okay.
and, yep,
Any other questions?
thanks.
Good. No, hearing none. Are you ready for me to make a motion?
no, you made the motion.
I made it.
You may-
I need a second.
And I second.
Okay, you're getting lost in what I'm doing here. All right. So little time. Okay, hearing no further questions, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No one's opposed? Motion carried.
Marty, I would like to ask a question that's unrelated right now. Do we have a limit on the number of bedrooms in a home? In our ordinances?
The limit
Yeah.
on the number of bedrooms, no, it's tied to the septic,
Isn't it?
or septic and the sewer. I
thought there was a limit to 8. That there couldn't be any more than 8 bedrooms. I thought there couldn't be any more than 16 occupants in any given building. We went over this
do you think that's in?
2 months ago, maybe?
Oh, for
It's
the
not
bedrooms?
adopted.
It's not
It's
adopted
not
yet.
adopted? Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. New man.
Cause I had one property that I used to manage that had a 10-bedroom septic system, but it was in their building permit that they could not exceed 16 people, but maybe it was a special situation.
Okay.
I know we have,
Non-conforming.
I mean, there's a house I can think of that has an occupancy of 20, so,
Okay.
I mean, it's been there for a very long time.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, number 6, zoning ordinance amendment, review and act on amendment to the zoning ordinance, section 113, nonconformance. Recommendation to the town council, including a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan. This is section 113 ordinance. Okay, Peter, if you will give us an update on that?
You want me to do it, or Karen, do you want to do it?
Whoever would like to do it is fine with me.
I'll do it. So there was a recent case that came out of the Rhode Island Supreme Court, under which a property owner was had voluntarily or decided to take down their house or structure and then wanted to build it back, but the structure that was taken down was non-conforming. In building it back, they wanted to do non-conforming. And the court said, well, hold up a minute. You can't just go back and get a variance because the zoning ordinance says if you demolish your structure and you want to build it back, it has to conform with the ordinance,
Right.
period, hard stop. There wasn't language after that that said, unless you get a variance. So in speaking with Jen, we noticed that there were a few, right, Jen, right, 2 or 3 applications that had been submitted that were seeking to expand either a non-conforming use or non-conforming structure by dimension. And that we were kind of in a situation where for years the town had done what so many other towns did, which is just, okay, then you just go get a variance. The problem is that the ordinance just doesn't say that. So this court case makes it clear that in order to give that relief, it's got to say that that relief is available. So that's the intent behind this particular ordinance amendment. It's pretty straightforward in the sense that it's just aimed at codifying what you may already be doing, and I say may because, and Jen's gonna kill me. I have a couple of small changes, and the reason, and I'll explain the reason. State law, the Zoning Enabling Act, governs the town's ability to regulate expanding non-conforming uses or structures. And what it says, oddly, is that you can typically do it for existing structures that want to expand or existing uses that want to expand. It has to be done by special use permit. It's odd. I checked it. I checked the case law. And so in terms of using a variance, a dimensional variance, I think you're limited. I think it's got to be by special use permit, according to the research I did.
Karen, is that for repairs and alterations or change? Like under 113C1, the expansion. So it wouldn't, we change that from dimensional variance to SUP.
That was one.
Exactly. So on C1, you would change that exactly from dimensional variance to SUP. And the case on that, just for the record, is Lloyd versus Zoning Board of Newport, 62A 3rd 1078, Rhode Island, 2013. And again, C2, dimensional variance should be changed to special use permit.
C2 should be special use permit.
Only in the first instance. So at line 1, 2, 3, 4, where it starts requirements, that one should be changed. The second instance where you're talking about demolishing by their owner, that's the court case. That said that you could get a dimensional variance because you are actually, not going to be an existing structure anymore. You're going to take it down. So that can stay dimensional variance.
Okay.
And then the other changes up above in B2. Change of
Change in
use.
use. Yeah.
The use variance, based on my research, is that you can pretty much get a use variance even if it's not stated. So we should state it. But also that should be special use permit. So that should be special use permit or a use variance.
So a special use permit or a use variance?
Yes, for B2.
So it's just depending on the situation, correct? Like if it's a prior existing non-conforming use and they're doing some change to it, it would be this special use.
So if you, for example, if you had a non-conforming use and you were changing it, but the use table today said, well, you can do that use, but you need a special use permit.
Yes.
You just go get the special use permit.
Okay, got it.
Any questions for me?
But we're keeping variance and special use there?
Mhm.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I read this, I'll make sure I have both in there, but I'll make sure that what I'm saying is correct because I did it off the original one for the findings. So.
Well, because then and then we added the criteria for special use permits for those. Yep.
I have a
Do we
question.
have expansion of a non-conforming use?
Yes, it's a 113C1. Oh, well, non-conforming building. So expansion of the non-conforming use, I think they used to apply under 113B.
Repairs and alterations.
B2.
Oh, that's the one.
13B
Okay,
deals
yeah.
with your non-conforming by
Me
use.
too.
Yes.
Yeah. So I, from a policy perspective, I'm not wild about allowing increase in square footage with a special use permit. I would prefer that it only be a use variance.
A B1.
Yeah, but that's for discussion.
Yeah, because we haven't had any use variances, well, in the past 30 years that I know of.
This would be it would apply to Boston.
But I wonder
Got
if
it.
that could be, what if what do you call them? 513 wanted to be installed inside a home and they needed a few more square feet. Do we want the ability to be able to
That wouldn't be a change in use though, because the use would be allowed. It's not a use it's a permitted use.
I think it was in
So
the repairs and alterations.
I think it would go under C, yeah, non-conforming buildings. So say the building was located
Okay,
closer to the setback than what would be allowed.
gotcha.
They would apply under C and not B. B would be, I'm not picking on them, but say if the Old Town Inn came in to expand, they're in the residential B zone, so an inn's not allowed in the residential B zone. That's where this that the use would,
Mhm.
or if you were to build something at the town's coastal zone,
Mhm.
which we don't see a lot of, or that's the only
Got it.
examples I can think of at the moment.
Okay. I have a question.
Go ahead.
In number A, if we're creating language, are non-conforming uses really detrimental and cause disruption? I mean, does our language have to be that severe? I admit that's trivial maybe, but do they really inhibit the nearby properties? I found the inhibit present and future development of nearby properties. I found the language to be very strong and I wondered if it was necessary.
You could say non-conforming uses and structures are
Incompatible.
incompatible with the permitted uses and structures in the zoning districts in which they are located and take out the detrimental. You could do that.
And do they cause disruption of the comprehensive land use pattern of the town, inhibit present and future development of nearby properties?
Probably
Maybe
not.
not.
I don't know if they would.
Their advantage, I'm
I
just not sure.
think they do. It is a disruption in
Yeah.
comprehensive land use pattern because you have your
I'd be inclined.
have all of the zones set in the comp plan and it
Okay.
deviates from that. It's a use
Yeah.
that's sort of over here that's not really allowed. So
Deviation from
yeah.
that comp-
The second clause, I feel is less necessary, but there may be a legal reason that they're included.
Okay,
no, I think this was, I don't think it is. I think you could take out and detrimental to permit, like you could take out and detrimental. They're compatible.
This is a policy decision. There's no
Yeah.
There's no legal, if anything, it was just kind of, I think, put there just so that you guys could understand from me. What the interpretation is, what the grounding is and why we have this ordinance. So not, there's
Do you
no
wanna
legal reason.
Take that out and detrimental? The first sentence?
I think so. I don't know how I'd love everyone else to weigh in.
I agree with you.
That's, I have no problem with that.
Everyone's okay with that? Okay.
Do I?
And then what about the second sentence that you mentioned? They cause disruption. Okay, so
I'd be inclined to keep in because it does.
How about they're just inconsistent with the comprehensive land use pattern?
I think disruption though talks to me anyway about flow and use and patterns like Jen is
I
saying.
agree.
So I think it's an appropriate word, not so much
Okay.
offensive, but kind of
Maybe.
word that implies.
Present and future development of nearby properties. That's up to you. That
Yeah,
was-
I don't see how they inhibit present and future development of nearby property, because a nearby property is gonna apply for whatever they want to apply for. What's happening next door isn't necessarily going to weigh in on either zoning or planning's decisions, correct?
It depends, I guess, on what,
Yeah.
if you think about present and future
From
development.
a regulatory standpoint, I would say no. If you live next to an oversized building, you might be not enjoying the shade and being less inclined to invest in your property.
Or if you're living next to a restaurant that's.
Yeah, noise and
permitted
smell.
In that zone, or just a more intense use of.
All right.
Okay, I could be persuaded
Okay.
of that.
Yeah, me too.
And then on my copy, D1, one is struck, but is it just to strike number one, or is that paragraph being struck?
Just the
So-
number.
Just the number.
Just the
Okay.
number.
All right,
There's only one number, so it wasn't needed.
So
gotcha.
you don't put a number in.
And then 401DC, we're requiring a vegetated buffer of a minimum of 6 feet wide and at least 6 feet in height. I mean, that can be detrimental to a neighbor, frankly.
Can we go back to D1? is there any chance we could just leave the one? I think it flows, and sometimes I've noticed when we take the numbers out for whatever reason, like people don't read it. Myself.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
Sure,
I-
yeah.
Okay, then
Do you
put the
think
numbers,
it's a narrative?
Sure.
I don't know.
put it back in then.
I don't know if it matters, but it
should-
sort of looks
Human
different. I
behavior
don't-
thing, yeah.
Okay,
So keep it, sorry. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but
no, it doesn't.
No, it does.
But
noticed
you-
it a couple of times.
You've
So
seen people, how they react with stuff that's put in front of them.
Yeah, if it has a number, it's important. Otherwise, it's a narrative.
Okay, I'll buy into that one.
yeah, I think, yes,
This is
I
what she
agree.
says.
I agree with Sasha.
Okay,
So,
Okay,
yeah,
so
so anyway, back to
article-
D.
back to D.
DC. Under number 9, 401 D. C. It actually has a solid fence or a vegetative buffer of 6 feet wide, and at least 6 feet in height. To me, that could be very detrimental to a neighbor. If you're in a neighborhood and you've got a really beautiful view and someone builds something that might be non-conforming, but is then a 6-foot height fence could completely block your view, and if we're gonna require it, there's no way around it. Maybe it could be
That's-
suggested.
That's currently required for 5 of the 8 special use permit categories in the town.
Oh, it is?
And you just made that change,
Okay.
2.5 years ago.
I just noticed that section 401 is not listed on our agenda, so you wouldn't
Oh.
be able to vote on that section tonight. You could, I don't know, if you want to vote on 113, you could do that, but
We can roll this
Or you
over
can-
next month.
wait until next month, so
Wait
they're
until
all
next month.
together. It's up to you.
Not only that, I wouldn't mind seeing this first paragraph on page 1 under A rewritten so that we can see actually how it's going to look.
And for 401D9C, we can take out the 6-foot buffer. I was just stating that it
Thanks,
exists
Chris.
presently.
I think the 6-foot buffer goes back to our discussions around parking lots several years ago when we talked about, we wanted them screened. And that's when we came up with either the fence or the 6-foot height of buffer for using planting, because we wanted to make sure that they would hide the cars. I seem to remember that discussion.
I think that's right, Morgan. I think what we capped the height on it
Yeah,
for reason of
yeah.
Okay.
But we wanted to
not
make sure
of
that-
maintenance. We didn't want that,
A 2-foot
Two.
height, bush isn't going to screen a car.
right? And the reverse of that, a 20-foot
Sorry.
outgrown hedge.
I thought that was
would be
for
too much.
commercial. You were,
That could,
I just
Oh.
wanted to make sure
Yeah.
this wasn't all
This is-
residential.
well, it is.
so we may want.
So this would also be-
Discussion came from,
Okay.
so, but we could definitely change it.
Commercial or
I
residential.
see what your point is. When we were having this discussion, it was around parking lots, particularly having to do with churches and so forth.
That's what I remember.
Okay, so we are all on the same page on that.
Yeah.
And that's why we came up with the screening of the cars, because in many cases, it would be in a residential neighborhood.
Mhm.
So if we want to change that and make it optional or take it out entirely, and those are probably our options.
And I'm curious, I'm kind of curious where certain circumstances, like Seagal's point, thanks for bringing it up, but it makes me curious in certain circumstances, where would we be sorry that's gone? Sometimes a vegetative buffer is
It's good.
really good
It's really-
and better than a fence.
Especially if you're close proximity to
Mm.
your neighbor. Maybe you could say, leave it up to the zoning board.
I would say.
Yeah.
That would be up
know.
either to the zoning board or the planning board, whoever's reviewing
Right,
Perfect.
to the permitting authority.
permitting
No.
authority.
right.
That sounds.
Is there a way to just add may instead of shall to
You
the?
have to be- Just a reminder, you do have to be careful because you are setting up, if you're talking about criteria for special use permits, they all have to be that favorite language, objective, specific and objective, I think is the term.
Right, right.
So just be careful. You want to make sure that the guidance is clear.
Yeah.
So instead of using may versus.
It's not clear guidance.
So should you change it to commercial only or residential or take it out?
Or commercial use.
Yeah, I mean, commercial use
Or parking
Or-
lots.
or just remove any vegetative buffer.
If it's commercial use only, sometimes the setbacks in that commercial district are only 5 feet.
Right, and 6 feet's pretty tall.
Pretty
I mean, you
big.
might not even
Mhm.
want it to be the full 6 feet.
In
So,
width.
oh, and width.
I'm thinking.
Width and height,
I was
width and
thinking
height.
height.
Yeah, height.
To
That's-
try, if it's trying to screen cars, you probably want it 6 feet. If you're not screening cars, then, 4 feet probably would do fine.
Right, depending on the vantage. point.
Yeah.
My goal is
Wait,
just to not.
would this work? If we, based on the terrain of the property, let the planning board or the zoning board require fencing or
Vegetative. fencing.
vegetative buffer based on that would be the criteria to make it equal. Because somebody who's sloping might definitely need sloping down, might definitely need a fence or a buffer. But if somebody's property is sloping going up a hill, you probably would not need it.
Mhm.
Would that work?
Is that specific enough? And objective?
It may be, I'd have to see the language, but it sounds pretty specific and objective to me, but I'd like to see it kind of.
Okay,
Yeah, my goal was to just protect
I see what you're trying to say.
residential properties that having
With
their views
and so forth.
obstructed.
And I see what you're trying, and I'm trying to figure out how to block a parking lot or something.
Mhm.
So
Sure.
again, it has to do with the terrain and location.
And location.
Terrain and
Like where
location.
I live, if I put a 6-foot buffer around my parking area, it would block my neighbor's view to the ocean.
Yeah.
Right.
I also have a view easement, but, I don't know.
And as I
Residential
said, I think
areas,
It should be.
I
up
think
to
it's
the-
site
the-
specific.
the-
applicable around the parking.
I think we need to
space.
leave it up to the zoning board or the planning
Really
board
straight.
to make a decision based on the property's terrain.
Mhm. Based on the physical, not,
Yeah,
any other judgment.
yeah.
The
based on
terrain.
Physical terrain of the property.
You may want to consider including something slightly specific, as in, is there a specific terrain that would require more and a specific situation that would not require more? Something like
What if
that.
it's flat ground?
What?
What if it's flat ground?
Yeah, flat, such as a flat parking lot.
I mean, if my neighbor were to put a 6-foot high fence or buffer because they wanted to put a building within the setback, and then they're required to put a 6-foot hedge, our view could be blocked.
Mhm.
And that would be, for
Detrimental.
lack of better words, a total bummer for us. I'd rather have their little building over here and not have to have this buffer of growth or fencing around it.
yeah.
It's
You want to,
disruptive.
you want to be careful too about protecting view, because legally in Rhode
Yeah.
Island, there is no lawful,
Yeah.
protection of that. Now, if there's a reason that we can talk about in terms of land use and planning goals, absolutely.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can't use that as an excuse to protect what otherwise wouldn't be legally protected.
We don't own the view.
I mean, the other option is to just totally remove that section
That one sentence.
In the
Any
residential zone.
in a residential zone.
Well, just say any vegetative buffer must be a minimum of 6 feet. Well, you're gonna see this as a special use permit, so you're gonna have an advisory to the zoning board. And you would,
Yeah.
so if you just remove that 6 feet wide and height,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
height, like,
Yeah.
then
That
you
out.
still have the ability to recommend some.
I think you could say the design shall be sufficiently mitigated. And we'll be okay.
Just take that out. That's
Okay.
fine. That's fine. Okay, so we'll make these corrections and it will come back to us next month. Any other corrections before I move on?
Mm-mm.
Okay, all right, we will go back to number 3. Okay, zoning ordinance amendment, review and act on amendment to zoning ordinance recommendation to the town council, including a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan. And this has to do with cannabis. And I will turn it over to Karen to walk us through this because this is new. We have not seen this.
This is new. This would be an entirely new section of your ordinance. I tend to work better when I'm working off of a draft. I also think it's helpful to kind of spur the questions that are, in my mind to bring to you. So this draft that's before you tonight is a very high level, just a jumping off point. I do expect it to change with your feedback. So please know that this is by no means fully baked. It's just a starting off point.
No pun intended.
Yeah, that is funny. I didn't even mean that. That was that was a really bad joke, but funny that you said that. So yeah, it's really just again just an attempt to kind of put what I think are some of the more important facets of a cannabis ordinance together in one place for you to take a look at it, read it, digest it, think about it, and then let me know if you have anything that you are thinking about to include, take out, things like that. Specifically, just to kind of highlight some of kind of the bigger issues we will need to drill down into. C, which is the townwide cap. I kind of took the liberty of assuming you would want one. I've been talking, well, Peter and I kind of exchanged emails on this. If there is a strong desire to limit it to one, I just got to make sure that you can. I believe at this point you can. The way that the licenses work, they're on zones. So there are 6 zones in the state. 4 licenses are allowed for your zone. You're in zone 6, which is a lot of the southern Rhode Island cities and towns. So it's 4 licenses can be granted by the state for that zone. I don't see anything that restricts us to say we only want one. And there are several towns in that zone. So 4 licenses is more, is less than the number of towns, meaning some of those towns are not going to have any. The other question is on the mandatory buffers under D. So for example, I have a 750-foot buffer for public or private K through 12 school public playground. State law talks about a 500 as a threshold guide. The regs go up to 1,000. So think about it, let me know. And then probably Peter and I are going to have to go back depending on what your goal is, what you'd like to see. We may have to do just a little bit of research to make sure it's supported. So I just want to put that out there. The last one, which was a really great point, I think it was raised by Peter, is under D3, the non-reduction. There's some language, buffer distances may not be reduced by variance or waiver. We, you want to think about that. We want to be thoughtful. And then we got to find out, does that make good planning sense? And also, is it legal? But again, these are just kind of some ideas that I had that you may want to consider when pulling together a new ordinance like this.
And is this
Can we,
due to state law changes or at the direction of the council to take a look at it?
It's at the direction of the council, but it is also a state mandatory process in the sense that the town is required to put it on for a vote, which I believe it came up, maybe was it 2022, 2023? And the town, I believe, did approve the option of having cannabis establishments. Once that happens, that vote, that information is transmitted to the state, and then the state knows that the town is willing. That has happened. So it makes sense that the council will then say, hey guys, this has happened. So now that that's in the works at the state level, my guess is there's probably some people out there inquiring, what about New Shoreham at the state level for a license? So this is really, you're being proactive, which is smart. You want these ordinances in place. You don't want to be playing catch up when someone applies to be in New Shoreham as a cannabis establishment.
Sure.
A use not listed in the ordinance is now a special use permit. So It's kind
Say
of
that again, Peter, I didn't follow that.
to your point, it's getting ahead of things because the way they changed the law a couple of years ago, it's not like the use is currently banned specifically. So
Mhm.
we want to be proactive about how we might explore it if it is
Yeah.
proposed, as opposed to to Karen's point, someone coming forward with a proposal that we aren't really in a good position to deny.
Makes sense.
Can we
And if
make
you
any
do-
suggestions today?
Yeah, I
Do you
was
wa-
gonna say, let's see if we've got any questions or comments that we can look at just quickly today. I
The-
have one. Do we have the option of saying we do not want any at all?
No. I mean,
Oh,
I don't, I'm
that's-
sorry.
Go ahead, Jen.
You voted because it was already voted on at the
Yeah.
financial town meeting, I think, I think maybe in 2023 or 4 as chair. And so I think because the towns had the option to vote on it, I
Mm.
guess, or
Yeah, we
they were
voted on
told
it.
to vote on it,
Okay,
so.
that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
We have to have at least one is what I guess is
Mhm.
what I'm saying. The option of not having any is not an option.
Correct.
We don't
Right.
have to have one, but you have to,
I
I
have-
think, allow it.
Allow
but
it.
Karen can answer that better than I could. I think that's the,
In other
Good
words,
of it.
we can't write this saying we don't want any at all. If they voted on it, then
I
that's.
think I think
You
the
could-
town, I don't know what the vote result was, but I think it passed that the
Did
town of
pass.
New Shore
It
wanted
passed,
to
okay.
allow at least.
That's what I'm trying to find out. I
Yes.
could not, I did not know.
it was financial town
Zoning-
meeting and it passed.
Okay, that's.
Zoning
that
is
answers
like
my
the
question.
The concept of zoning is restrictive and not permissive. So we are structuring a zoning ordinance that will put restrictions on the ability for someone to open up a cannabis operation, and that regime could be so restrictive that effectively only one ends up
Mhm.
operating.
Right.
Which is one of
We have
my,
to, and
Oh,
to
go
your,
ahead.
and that's important, we have to be careful, right? Because I'll give you, I can probably send this to Jen to circulate, but in the meantime, if you want to look at it, it's Rhode Island General Law 21-28 point 11. That's the Rhode Island Cannabis Act. And I do invite you to just kind of go through that. It can be a little complex, but I think that especially the initial sections are important, just so you understand what the legal landscape is, or what the state law landscape is. And
Mhm.
what's important about that is, to Peter's point, we do have to be we have to be mindful and reasonable, meaning we cannot come up with you can't be so restrictive
Right.
in the ordinance that it basically precludes a business from entering.
Mhm.
Okay, so will you send that to Jen so she can circulate it to us?
I will.
Okay, that's perfect.
The one thing I wanted to add is I'm happy to help with mapping as well as you go through this, if you start thinking about areas
Yeah, I
that you
wondered about
wanna
mapping.
focus on or avoid.
Yeah, that comes to my point. I looked at the maps today and I think RCM and M should also be not permitted. Because when I look at those zones, with the exception of some inns, they're predominantly residential.
Right.
So that would be something that I
Yeah,
would like it to be considered.
Yeah, I agree.
And then
Could you tell me what zones again? You're not permitted in RC.
RCM and
Mhm.
M, I think should have an N,
Okay.
as in not permitted. Because then, we're not being too restricted. It's Old Harbor commercial, service commercial, commercial.
Mhm.
I don't know about planned unit development. I don't know why that would necessarily need one, but because you can have planned unit developments in New Harbor, in the commercial zone, that could be all commercial. Maybe we could leave that. I don't really know. But I also think my only other suggestion was the 9 to 5, if you could keep them open till 7. I know there are medical marijuana users who, because you can't go into those stores and buy for anyone else. So if someone works 9 to 5 on a Monday through Friday, they might want to be able to go in after work and get their prescription.
Great point.
Yeah, that's good.
I think
It
delivery
doesn't have to necessarily be weekends, although I'm sure anyone who has one of these stores is going to want to cater to weekend people out here
Like everybody else.
like everybody else. So that is something maybe everyone wants to consider. Why do they have to be closed on the weekend? Or should they be closed on the weekend?
I
Something to
think this is
consider.
Just a starting point, so it's really
Yeah,
up to
that's
what you
good.
guys
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Yeah, Karen said that to start with.
Yeah, and then
Are you-
my thought is to limit to one. I don't see why we need more than one, although you need to have any business have a monopoly in the same breath. You need more
I
than
think
one.
cannabis operations in Rhode Island tend to have a lot of drive-through. And then they might also do delivery.
Delivery was one of my questions too.
Drive-throughs are prohibited.
Yeah, they are.
And to-
Both stores are so strict, in how you enter, how
Yeah.
you're licensed, you know, they require a lot of identification and they're very strict typically, depending on the state, I suppose.
Right, I think you do want to list that. That was one of my questions too. So far, there's no restriction on delivery.
Typically that, yeah, and that's an interesting question, Mary. Is it up to the state or is it up to the town to state that you cannot buy for someone else?
Right,
You have to be, you're purchasing for yourself, not for someone else. We'd have to look at that. We could look at what you had quoted, Karen, as the Cannabis Act.
Mhm.
It might be in that.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that there are regulations in place, and I downloaded all the regulations, so I'll put that in as a question, and I'll find out the answer and I'll report back.
Okay.
also that led me to thinking, how does the product get here? Is it legal to be transported on the ferry? I mean, is that a federal, I don't know,
It's not legal in the federal.
my Coast Guard brain thinks of
State, it's the state regulation.
that allows it to be transported on the ferry as a product to be
That's interesting.
sold here.
So.
Yeah.
Federal waters and I don't,
Well,
Yeah,
just
I mean.
don't know what the
when-
state
we're gonna
has
put that
changed there.
on for next month,
Yeah.
February, right?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
questions that are
Yeah.
occurring as we.
Jen, I did not see that handout in my packet. Could you resubmit it to me by email?
It was emailed and it's probably in your box.
Yeah, it's probably in your box.
Yeah, it was on, I think it was Monday or, it was this week.
I went Tuesday. I
Mm.
picked up all my stuff Tuesday
I'll check for
morning.
you, for sure.
Okay.
Please.
Sure you have it.
Karen, am I free to ask more questions?
Yes. we have
Yes.
a couple more questions.
I don't want to interrupt. Karen, also, first of all, thanks for doing this. It was as you say, it's great to have something in front of you before you start adding things to it. Thank you so much. Made me think also, are all products considered edible, beverages, ointments, topical things, oils, tinctures?
Yeah, great question. So there are definitions of what is included and not
Uh-huh.
included under the act. So if there's something specific, I can certainly
Oh,
look
okay.
it up and see if it's covered, but it's pretty well, I have to say it's pretty well thought out and it's
Okay.
got a lot of coverage, and it's also lined up with what an establishment would be licensed to do. The act you'll see is split up with the idea being that you're going to have growers, manufacturers that actually take the product and then turn it into something that they then distribute to the establishments that sell retail. So there is kind of an inferred system in place in the regulations that you'll see.
Oh, okay.
Which, Karen, what you just talked about make me think, would growing pot fall under an agricultural product on this island?
Or is it medical?
In other words, we encourage agriculture. Would this be an agricultural item?
Oh, this would just be to allow cannabis establishments. So you would not be allowing a cannabis farm or a
Okay.
Grower.
a grower, correct. If you look at, and that's kind of apparent under the cannabis establishment definition, and that's taken right from state law. So what's included in this ordinance is defined as an establishment. And actually, I'm totally lying to you. A facility licensed by state of Rhode Island as a cannabis cultivator. So it's all of those things that are listed under cannabis establishment. So now that I'm seeing the word cultivator, which I didn't see at first, I'm going to do a little bit more checking on that as well to see how far of a what is a cannabis cultivator? What do those licenses look like? And what kind of uses would that encompass on the island? It's a great question.
Yeah. I don't know, the law might have changed in recent years, but like the growing of cannabis is kind of plant agriculture. It's when you start refining it into sellable products, that it becomes more of a zoning issue.
Mhm. Is taxation a part of the act? Because it kind of weighs in on whether you have one store or two stores. Can one store handle the volume? Is it beneficial to have two? Do we benefit from the taxation of the income?
You may, again, that's something I want to research more on, but you may in the sense that the legal landscape is set up such that once you vote to move forward, like the town did in this case to approve it, then that does allow you to receive state funds. I'm kind of, I don't want to guess. I think I think at that point, it does open up, you know, for you to receive funds. Do you receive more funds if you have more than one? I don't know. I would have to check that. As to taxes, just generally speaking, there's no ability for a town to slap an additional tax on this kind of use. It's just, you can do your regular taxes. And then any additional tax for cannabis specifically is really handled at the state level. But I'll drill down on that other issue. and report
You would
back.
get more property tax theoretically with more
Yeah,
than one
like you would with,
establishment.
Because
like
it's
you would with
commercial.
adding any other commercial use. Yes, that's
To the
right.
extent that someone's adding, you know, building new structures or having more tangible items that are taxable,
Mhm.
that would increase town
Okay.
revenue.
Point, yep.
Any other questions?
Just,
quickly?
just two more. Karen, again, thanks for doing this. I had wondered what that process was. I am saying the seller would apply for a license, have an application fee, then does it go to a public hearing, and who selects that only applicant? What if the applicant doesn't comply? Who monitors their use of where they set up their business? What if they don't comply? Are there fines?
Yes.
If
This would
they
be
get 2 fines, do they have to close? How far do we have to take into consideration how this business operates and if they operate according to the rules we've set out?
Great question. So you right now are just focused on the zoning portion. So similar to say, the licensing and regulation of mopeds isn't a great example, but to the extent that there's something in the zoning ordinance that regulates the use, the moped rental use, that's in the zoning ordinance. There's a separate ordinance in your general ordinances that deals with the licensing.
Okay.
The same should happen here. This is just for the zoning portion. Any additional licensing or anything like that would be done either in the general ordinances or at the state level. So we're not really focused on that so much. To your question about application, right now the draft is set up so that the use is either not allowed or it's allowed by special use permit. So someone would come in, they would presumably have to go through their state licensing, and then they would apply for, they'd find a location, and then they would apply for a special use permit. Right now is drafted, that this could change. And then they would come in, and then they would have to go through the special use permit process. And that would be where all those review criteria would come into play, like we were just talking about for
Okay.
specific and objective. So we'll have to talk about that. That's under I. It's kind of just some place marker ideas, but we'll have to flesh out what are the criteria to approve.
So they would come to the planning board and not to the town. Like if someone is opening a bar and they need a liquor license, they go to the town. In this case, they would be coming to the planning board.
I would have to come to the planning board for a special use permit.
Okay.
Any additional licensing that they might need is handled by the council, similar to a liquor license or another type of license that the town council would issue.
But the zoning board would review the special use permit.
Yes.
The planning board and the conservation commission would review it for and offer
Advisory.
advisories to the zoning board.
Okay.
So that,
It's like any other use that would need a special use permit, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And what, is it first come, first serve? What if 3 people apply? How are they selected? How is one person selected? The state makes that decision?
State issues up to 4 licenses per zone. So you're in zone 6 again, so they can issue up to 4. And then once that, when you, as an applicant, when they go to the state level, they have to identify what zone. They can apply to multiple zones, but once the permit is issued, they have to narrow down what zone do you want to be in, so that the state can kind of spread them out. To that point, once they are awarded a state permit for zone 6, then my understanding is that they would then look for a location. If they decided on New Shoreham, yes, it would pretty much be, if it's limited to 1, yeah, it's first come, first serve. It's limited to, I mean, even if it's limited to 4, if all 4 of those state licenses get issued and 4 different companies all want to come to New Shoreham, and there's no, maximum in place, then yes, they would come in and they would apply for their special use permit. Basically first come, first serve.
How would we decide, Karen, what would you recommend that we look into or read in terms of the amount of licenses? Like, why just 1? What if 2 seemed better?
Oh,
And how would we
yeah.
know what to look at?
Just one
confirm
point on
that
that
was-
is frequently that for this type of use, there's a minimum distance between them.
Uh-huh.
So you don't have like a red light district. And so just think about that. Maybe you do want them next to each other, maybe you don't.
Can we think about that with you in charge of maps with us?
Yeah.
Great, great.
But I'm
Maybe,
saying just like from a policy perspective,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Whether you want to congregate the uses or don't, right? Maybe you want one in New Harbor, maybe you want one in Old Harbor.
yeah, maybe you want what, yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Maybe you want one for more of a seasonal kind of placement of location, and then maybe you want another one somewhere where residents of the island, a little bit of a quieter area. That's
year
not.
round. Yeah, for year-round use.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's-
sure parking will be a big issue probably.
Yes, parking could be an issue.
Yeah.
And I want
For
to question
patrons.
whether there's enough business for 2 or
For 2. Yeah.
Because
just-
generally on-site consumption is not allowed, so it's more like a liquor store than a bar.
Yeah.
Right. I was
Yes.
thinking of that. Yeah, it's the on-site consumption's not cool. Also, it does limit it when you start thinking of where it can be used or vaped or burned or ingested or whatever, like
Mhm.
can't be sidewalks and roadways and yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
To that point, just so you know,
Yeah.
the town already does have an ordinance that prohibits public consumption, and
Mhm.
once this draft gets a little bit further, not too much, a little bit further in the process, part of my job is to go into that ordinance and just make sure that they are consistent. So you may,
Right.
you may see some changes, you may not, but again, just to reiterate, we're very early in the process.
No, it's great. So your list in this early process, again, thanks for doing this because it made it easier to imagine problems. And one of the things I think, refresh my memory if I'm wrong, you listed not on town-owned properties. Would that include the cemetery?
If it's town owned, yes.
Oh, we're looking at zones, not just town-owned properties weren't allowed. Oh, not permitted to buy, but permitted to use. Am I getting, are there?
Where are you seeing the language?
I think you could just go to the general ordinance and read that section. and
I
just
got
look
you.
at how it's,
How it's section, in
Yes.
sections. I guess, Peter, I'm desperate for your maps. My brain is thinking of maps. Thank you.
I would also like to,
Yeah, and there's a map on the town website that
Yeah.
shows the zones. That's
Okay.
what I looked at.
Okay.
Today.
It would be nice if we could get that sometime in the next week or 2, so we'll have a chance to think about it, as well as looking at this, rather than just looking at things individually, put them together.
Yeah,
I
thank
also-
you.
I
That'd be
also,
great.
I also think our police needs to be trained in DUI, meaning driving under the influence of pot.
Okay, I think we're going off
Yeah.
track here from the zoning
Planners.
ordinance, but good.
Gonna fall under state law,
Yeah.
I imagine.
Yeah, okay. We have minutes to take a look at and,
December 10th,
uh,
Sorry, I didn't look at
September,
them.
December.
I'm sorry, December. Okay. Has, you had a chance to look at these?
I didn't look at them. I'm sorry.
Okay, fire. All right, we'll take a minute, let people look through it real quickly. In a quick, and I admit it was quick, I did not spot anything. So
Okay.
take a look. And Peter and Karen, thank you all very much for your information today. It was greatly appreciated.
Yes.
Yeah, it was
Thank
very,
you.
very useful today.
I'll see
You
you
make it
Tuesday.
more fun than it sounds.
I will see you Tuesday.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
Just a
meeting.
reminder for all of us here,
HDP.
Tuesday at noon, we are meeting with the Historic District Commission. In fact, it wouldn't be a bad idea to send a notice out since we have a couple people who had left.
Yeah.
How can we
I can do
prepare?
that. I did that on Monday, but I can send another
Absolutely.
one on Friday.
Maybe Friday.
Yes.
Just as a reminder. There's just a lot of stuff going on at this point
I
and they
will do
did
that.
left early.
That's Tuesday at noon.
Tuesday at noon.
How are we preparing for that?
I don't,
Well, there really isn't any preparing,
could we finish this? I just, cause it's
Oh.
on the agenda, so I don't want to talk about.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that we don't,
Minutes.
minutes. Okay, I make a motion that the minutes for Wednesday, December 10th be approved. Do I have a second? Socia seconds. Any corrections or additions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And I also make a motion that the meeting be adjourned. Socia seconds. I'm assuming there are nobody opposing. All in favor say
Oppose.
aye.
Jen,
No.
Jen,